On another devastating episode of the Animation Deliberation Podcast, the rumbling continues as Eren Yeager and the Titans march across the ocean to Marley. Will our heroes be able to save the world? We'll talk about that and much more right after these ads we have no control over.
Sing along if you know the words. 1, 2, 3, it's time for Animation Deliberation. A conversation and a celebration of our favorite action animated series. Yeah,
welcome back to another episode of Animation Deliberation, the podcast where we take action animation and cartoons seriously, but not too seriously. We are your hosts. I am Zuhair Ali.
My name is J. Scotty St. Clair.
And I am Andrew Rogers.
And the rumbling continues. We have lots to say, lots of positives, lots of negatives. This will be a very ranty episode, and we're glad that you guys are here for it. We did have a lot of news that dropped this week, including the Crunchyroll Anime Awards. We did do all of that on our Demon Slayer episode, so you guys are interested in what's going on in the world and what our thoughts were on the awards. Please check out that episode and send all of your feedback to our respective DMs and emails and all the fun stuff, which I'm sure you wonderful people have memorized. But we will drop it towards the end of the episode as well.
And if you're interested in Demon Slayer, also check out that episode. We had a great time.
And if you weren't before, just watch all of Demon Slayer, because it's incredible. Season 3 starting. Why not? It's a great time. Great time to be an anime fan, man. Like, within 14 hours, I drove to the theater for Demon Slayer, went to a Attack on Titan watch party, went to bed, and woke up to the newest My Hero Academia episode. Like, what a time to be an anime fan.
Living your best life.
I really am. And then the drops of that Dragon Ball Z and Naruto game that came out. Details in that Demon Slayer episode, we're not going to get into it because we have a lot of Attack on Titan to cover. We had 2 1-hour specials? Is that what it was? Or was it the whole thing an hour?
It was
one
the whole thing was
1
1
hour
hour
special.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you watch something else, I have questions because I don't know what we're going to be talking about for that second special. I watched one thing.
Well, my friend also started the very first episode, and we were sitting there like, man, are we really getting a recap? And I'm just like, I don't think this is the newest episode. I think you actually played episode 1. Smell it back there. So yes, as fans of Attack on Titan, I'm very confused. I'm still confused. I was confused last week. They bring up the worst in my confusion. Let's get to the synopsis.
Let's get to the synopsis we shall with Season 4, Part 3, Part 1 premiere, the final chapters, Chapter 1 and 2.
Woo!
Yes. Say that 10 times fast.
Nope.
All right. The march of Eren Yeager and the Wall Titans reaches the Marleyan city of Liberio, killing most of its people. Eren has known since he first arrived in Marley that he would one day flatten this city. Despite this, he calls his friends into the past in order to tell them there can be no compromise so long as their stances are unwavering. The combined group of surviving scouts and warriors manage to get the flying boat fueled and prepared at Odiha, but not without costly delay caused by Flock Forrester. Hanji Zoe fights the approaching Titans alone to buy the group time, handing command over to Armin Artlet. The group catches up with Eren near Fort Salta, one of the last bastions of humanity in Marley. Following a failed bombing run by the Marleyan military, the scouts and warriors jump from the flying boat and onto the back of Eren's founding Titan.
You guys ready for my hot take? So
As ready as
like
we'll
it's
ever
hot,
be.
my guy.
Yeah.
I said that I got to watch like both of these back to back. I think I would have rather seen this in theaters than Demon Slayer.
Ooh.
You feeling that sizzle?
I feel like Hanji Zoe being burnt up by colossal Titan steam right now.
I don't know if I disagree with you, if I'm being honest.
I disagree, and we can get into why exactly, but I think I know you guys have thoughts about the release schedule and Mappa's communications, so I won't steal any of your thunder, but I really feel like with like the rumbling being so present, like I found like the momentum of like this whole, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it, but like considering how much fallout and how things are wrapping up so much, I was like, oh, this would have hit so much harder had it been released in closer succession to everything else, because I found myself really straining to remember everything that happened in the previous parts of the final season, because so much has happened. I like found myself going to the wiki, just like refreshing myself. I was like, okay, what were these countries' partnerships and whatnot? Like, when did these foes become allies again? And maybe I could have benefited from rewatching before this, but I didn't have time to do that. So I enjoyed it, but it wasn't without some qualms, I'll say.
Sure.
Honestly, one of my first thoughts was, oh yeah, there was a plane. Like, a very key and integral part of the story that we were telling this week was something I had completely forgotten about, because of, like, I think it's also because of how big the Rumbling as an event was, that, like, we all knew it may have been coming, but none of us really thought we were going to see it on that scale. So, like, if you ask me anything about season 4, the Rumbling is, like, the number one thing in my memory.
Sure. Yeah, I finally got around to watching the Crunchyroll supercut of seasons 1 through 3, which they put seasons 1 through 3 in the span of a 2-hour morning. Words. They put seasons 1 through 3 in the span of a 2-hour movie. And it was really well done if you've seen everything and need a recap. I would never suggest anybody to watch this for the first time, because of like the pacing, and there was like narration and they recut the music and stuff. But they did a really good job. And then I was just kind of watching the final season, and I think I got up until Eren activated the Founder Titan and they started marching. So I didn't get to like the last confrontations like at the pier and stuff. But a good chunk of it was fresh in my mind. And I remember last year, which is stupid to say this is the final season, we talked about this last year. Last year when we spoke about it, I had mentioned that like if they were going to drag it along and not communicate and do this and do that, like just put the rest of it in the theater, like make a spectacle out of it. I still think that they should do that for the fall, which is when they say they're going to wrap this up. We'll see how long they drag it on. But if I had to pick between an hour premiere of Demon Slayer or an hour special of Attack on Titan, knowing that I won't see anything until fall, I think I would rather watch those two in theaters, right? Because it's the ending, because they're big spectacles. There's so much to talk about. I know manga viewers have their thoughts. I don't know the details. I don't want to know them. But at the same time, it's like, I've been watching this since 2012. Like, if you're going to drag it on for this long, make it a theatrical spectacle to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I was thinking was, that's the end. Like, when we got to the end of this episode, not that we didn't get some great things throughout this special, I was just like, oh, that's it? Like,
That was a sick cliffhanger.
Well, it's a sick cliffhanger, but we have to wait 6 more months to get this cliffhanger resolved. Like, I think that's my biggest thing of like, okay, Mappa didn't communicate and I am PO'd because of this, that I went in thinking, oh, we now have Attack on Titan for the next, I don't know, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, however long. Like, I thought
this was going to record this.
Yeah, I thought this was a premiere of a season. Then to go online and find that even the articles didn't know whether or not this was a one-off thing, whether or not we were getting multiple things. They were all like shrugging. And I think it was this morning I was finally able to find like one article that said, oh yeah, the part 2 coming out in the fall is another 1 hour special, maybe 1 hour, we don't know, that is supposed to be the end. Like, why are we getting this single tease of an hour of a chapter or 2 chapters of the story? Like, just put it all in the fall, give me all 4 chapters at once, and let me, succumb to the slow death that they have been trying to put me through all in one sitting, because that's the reason that it feels like it's a weird, disjointed cliffhanger, is because I'm not going to get the answers to the things that I want to know, need to know, whatever, because now there's also teases that it might be an anime only ending. So the manga readers are also now getting excited because it might be something different for them. But I don't understand what this schedule is and why they, A, are being weird about telling us what it is, and B, why it is what it is. Like, it's bizarre in terms of the way they're producing this.
I could not agree more. I think I would have rather waited more time and had these conclusions all presented to me at the same time, or at least within a reasonable time frame, because again, that's where I like this story has been so. And Zuhair, I feel for you. Like you've been watching it since 2012. I watched that first
Weekly.
season back in 2012, but then just like fell off and had the pleasure of being able to binge seasons 2 and 3 in preparation for this final season. But it's such a gripping story with such great characters and such a great world. Like I feel like it's kind of a disservice to release it this way, this disjointed, and it's. I hate to say it, but I kind of feel like it's like losing steam in some ways when it should be like, reaching the heights of its storytelling and emotional impact. And it's just not doing that for me just because of the way it's being released.
So many play on words. I love that.
Yeah, the steam and everything.
Steam and towering, and I was like, picturing the rumbling as you're giving that description.
Yeah, and just like that's my last point is we waited
He said last.
No, last point of the scheduling issues. I have other things to talk about, don't you worry. Zuhair, you waited 6 years to go from season 1 to 2 or from 2 to 3 or something like that?
Something like that, 4 to 6 years.
Why did we need to rush this 1 hour special to come out, 6 months after the last part of the season?
4 projects that they're working on.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the one thing. This still looks amazing. They did a phenomenal job. I don't know how Mappa has done this in lieu of Chainsaw Man and all of the other things that they're working on, but don't rush it. If you don't have to, like, I don't understand. Is there a contract issue? Like, what's going on behind the scenes that is causing all of this chaos? Just tell us about it and hopefully we'll understand. Or even if we don't, we now at least have a perspective of why it's happening this way.
There is one thing, but I'll tell you guys off air.
Okay.
In case the listeners don't want to know.
Do we want to go ahead and jump into some feedback before we get too carried away here?
Let's do it. I think it's time we talk about the story a little bit.
I was about to say it's story time, so let's let some listeners give some thoughts on it.
So we got an email from the one and only TJ Stafford. And we are back. It's been too long since I felt the entire emotional spectrum in the course of an hour. Terror, joy, sadness, rage, and everything in between. That opening was horrifying. The episode's thumbnail on Crunchyroll was an image of Hanji looking totally badass, so was already fearing the worst for her. But at least she got a pretty fitting end. Oh, my only regret is she didn't go out cackling like she was wont to do when dealing with Titans. Speaking of regrets, for the love of Emir, can we stop splitting the party? Just once before the show ends, I want a full Titan team up with all 5 of the remaining 9, but if they keep going off and doing their own thing, likely not going to get it. Annie and Falco need to get their butts there post-haste. Besides, I need more Armin and Annie. They are adorable. I don't really care who else lives or dies in the final confrontation, but I need those 2 to make it out okay. I read that as make out okay. I hope you guys enjoyed the last installment, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts.
First of all, I want to say, TJ, I got your reference. Stop splitting the party, and I feel like that is applicable to Demon Slayer as well. So go back and listen again to that episode there. But I do just want to address the elephant in the room for me. Speaking about Armin and Annie, yeah, that's cute, and I want Armin to be happy. But Annie, I have not forgotten Levi's squad. So yeah, she's we've seen villains become heroes and vice versa, and like I think that's really what this story is about. At the end, that war is hell, and there really are. Nobody comes out unscathed, and nobody does things that they're not proud of or anything like that. But I'm just having a hard time like finding Annie redeemable, and it resonates with me that she doesn't find herself redeemable. But yeah, I just can't forget Levi's squad and that massacre that we had. Like, it's hard for me to want her to be happy.
I need that alternate universe where we could have seen Levi and Petra together.
Yeah, I agree. The whole point of this show is that everyone's awful, and that's my thing. Everyone's awful. I'm not rooting for anyone anymore. Like, as much as there was emotion, it kind of felt soulless to the point of like, you know what? Kill Eren. And all of you are going to die in like 9 years because we found out that's how long Titans live or whatever it is. Like, you all have done some horrific things at this point. Like, I don't know if I want to root for this relationship because it just feels so I get it. I love the place that it came from, but I don't want to root for any of these people to be happy because they're all doing horrible things at this point and selfish things, and like it's totally such a weird understanding. And I love that they're putting me through that emotion, but it's just like, oh gosh, another ship that I now have to question with all these people, in the background of like, is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. We're gonna find out.
So many things that you guys mentioned, like, made me happy. I did this rewatch. Like, we talk about what everybody did because when you guys were talking about like I don't forgive Annie, like I'm thinking it's like, yeah, I just want Armin to be happy. But then like Armin's had all his dialogue of like how bad he feels for like the people that he's killed since he's been the Colossal Titan.
Yeah.
And then there was the conversation between Aaron and Rhina when he was in Marley for the first time, and he says in front of Falco like, why did my mom have to die? Why did this have to die? Why did you have to do this? Like, all this happened because you guys, like, we didn't even know you existed. Like, this happened because you guys made that step. And then seeing Gabi have the same thing, she was like, you killed my friends, you killed this, you killed, like, the exact same, like, Aaron dialogue. And then the third piece of it was there was so many times where Levi and, oh my God, what was the commander's name?
Erwin,
where they were talking about like, especially before Erwin went on his final strike, he was like, do you think they're watching us? And there was this beautiful scene of Erwin and Levi talking, and like it cuts out to like everybody around them, and he's like, do you think they're watching us? Do you think that we've succeeded? Like, I just want to be able to, fulfill the mission for their sakes and this and that. So Levi had that conversation with Hanji, and then when Hanji got stomped, seeing everybody around her, like how they talked about for 2 or 3 seasons now, was so beautifully done. Like, sure, you drag everything off over 12 years and piss me off in the process, but like the way that they connect all these little pieces together is just incredible.
Oh yeah, that emotional payoff. Like, I'm not rooting for relationships necessarily, but the emotional payoff of the fact that Hanji said the exact line of, do you think they're watching? Only to wake up and know that they're watching, become one of the watchers, have that beautiful, like, as much as it was a fake out, and I hate that they faked us out like that, where it's like, wait, Hanji's alive? How is Hanji alive? Only to see the entire squad there to pick her up, was heartbreaking and beautiful and sad all at once. Like, I loved it and hated it, but just having him pick her up and say, you have such a story to tell, I could have had it end there. Like, that could have been the place where I'm like, this anime's over, I'm good. Like, this is such a beautiful story that it's just the carrying of this war is now over and the burden is gone because she did what she had to do to save them. Like, that was so beautiful and so amazing.
The fact that Hanji has an eye patch in the afterlife just for that fake out cracked all of us up.
Yeah, even though Erwin had 2 arms, he got his arm back, but she still got the eye patch.
Yeah. I guess she could take it off after she finishes the story. Which everyone apparently saw because they were there.
No. I will say Hanji's swan song was definitely the highlight of these 2 chapters in the, hour-long special as a whole, but I can't help but be reminded the only reason that she had to buy them time is because Flock Forrester reared his ugly head again, and I was like, I thought we were done with him. He has to come back to throw one more wrench. But then I felt like his death too, like they tried to give him, I felt like they tried to redeem him, and like the characters like, trying to actively like care for him as he was passing away, and like he got to die still believing in what he believed in, his cause. Like, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, if there was ever, I mean, again, like to Andrew's point, all these characters have done awful things, and it's hard to root for any of them. Hanji being the exception, I'll always root for her. But yeah, like the fact that he felt somewhat redeemed and got to have like this, like, again, he had an ODM sword shoved into his neck, but it still felt like a peaceful passing for a character I detest.
I hope he had like just enough brain activity left to feel the steam like slowly burn him as the Titans got closer. Like, I hope that was very slow and painful.
Wow, this is bringing out the worst in us. Jeez Louise.
Screw that guy. I am trying very hard to wash my mouth right now. Screw that guy.
Yeah. I am honestly a bit surprised that like, I know Hanji as the leader felt that she was the one that needed to do that, but the fact that Levi being so grievously injured was not the one to say, like, I can't fight at 100% capacity. Let me slow them down. You go take down Eren. Like, that, I was kind of actually expecting Levi to be the one that, you know, did the deed and had his swan song in that moment. Like, as much as it would have been really sad to also see one of the few characters with redeemable qualities stick around, or rather die, so that Hanji could stick around. It was interesting that he's still here just because of his revenge vendetta against
Zeke.
the name's Zeke. Thank you. It was leaving me. Yeah, that he has
Levi
a vendetta
versus Zeke, round
versus
3.
Zeke. But, like, I don't know. I feel like Hanji could have been the, you know, better warrior and also not promoting Levi. What are you doing? Like,
That was amazing. It was like, Levi's your underling now. Make sure you boss him around. That was so satisfying.
It was, but it wasn't. Like, give me that scene of her saying to Levi, like, hey, I can't promote you. Give us the little background of, like, these two characters would probably have that conversation to be like, hey, I know we're friends, but I can't do this. And he'd be like, yeah, duh, obviously. Like, skipping over him in the lineage like that, that's kind of screwy.
Nah, he knows. He knows his
I don't
place.
know. And that's where it comes back to, I wish we had more time, because I feel like that's something that could have been a little bit fleshed out.
No, that's something where he understands his status as a warrior, and whoever's in charge needs to have the brains for everybody, not just himself. So the fact that he can focus on what he needs to do while having somebody cover the big picture so that he doesn't have to worry about that, it makes perfect sense.
But is Armin really the big picture guy right now? It feels like he's not.
Brains-wise, he is.
I don't know. It feels like he's not in the right place to make those decisions against Eren, though.
That's why he revived Armin and not
Erwin.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I'm also reminded of, like, we're, you know, it's making me think of, like, characters that were redeemed and how effective that was or wasn't. And like with Hanji again, like with this being her, you know, her final bow, she mentioned, I think she was speaking to Yelena, how Yelena was like Zeke's fangirl or, you know, fan person, whatever fan. And she was like, this only proves like that the euthanation route was the only viable option. And Hanji kind of acknowledges like, I did fail. I failed Eren. And like, maybe this would have been the best path because I didn't show him any better way to protect the island. So like having her, you know, make that admission and then like to see that Levi's response is different when they're in the like the coordinate, the paths, and Levi has that opportunity to kind of like speak to Eren, and he says like, I can't remember exactly what he says, but basically like, if you stop now, I'll just give you a really swift kick to the face. So like to see his approach to like how he's failed Eren, and then it makes me think of Reiner again, because like, again, like what you brought up with what we first saw in the beginning of this season with Eren in front of Reiner and Falco and saying like, I'm basically doing to you what you did to me. And it coming full circle with Reiner having this like conversation with Connie where he realizes like, maybe Eren like actually wants us to stop him. Like, I thought that actually was something that worked really well for me, it being Reiner that came to that conclusion.
Yeah, Reiner has a weird redemption arc that I'm like, I'm kind of on his side of he is seeing this from a better perspective than he was before.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Maybe at the end of the day, I'm also like, we have passed up on Gene for so many opportunities. I feel like he could have led them and actually been like, you know what, screw Eren, screw you, screw everybody. We just have to save the world. Like, it felt like Gene had that like clear head going in. Again, we would have skipped over Levi to get there, but I feel like that almost would have been better because I don't trust Armin. This episode taught me like Armin is just trying to take the friendly route. Let me talk to Eren. Let me see what can happen. Like, does he have the gall to do what needs to be done at the end of the day?
Who's Gene?
He was Eren's rival initially when like they were in training.
Horseface?
Wasn't it Jean?
Jean.
Yeah.
Oh, I just quick did a goog and was not thinking. Yes, Jean. Thank you. Gene. It's not often you get to call me out, so here we are. It's usually the other way around.
replaying the whole scene in my head of everybody that was in the flying boat. Like, I don't remember a Jean.
Yeah, especially because Jean was like armored up. He had like 30 spears on his back swinging onto Aaron Titan at the end there. Like everybody else just had like one sword. He had an armory ready to go. I'm like, oh, he's here for the fight.
I'm glad they showed him as a supply man, because I was like, there's no way they're all going in there with one Thunder Spirit each. Oh, he's holding the supply. Okay. That made more sense. I was very confused. Very confused.
Yeah. And to be fair, like Jean has been one of my favorite characters, and I do feel like he's been a little underserved, especially in this kind of like special. Like he had, a couple of lines of dialogue here and there, but I'm hoping, he has a way to shine a little bit more in the final parts. But I am thinking of Aaron and just like this path that he's been on. We've talked about like some characters being redeemed, but basically he's just on a complete opposite path. And Zuhair, you mentioned being kind of confused. And I do think like the back and forth between time and seeing him when he first got to Liberio, saving, I think the kid's name was like Ramses, like saving him, but like knowing that saving him was pointless, and then going on to like see both like that kid and Halil, like one crushed by debris, the other one crushed by a Titan foot, and like zooming in on the face as his face just dissipates from the pressure. Like that was dark. But I could not help myself, but like as we were going on this journey with Aaron, again, being a fan of like Marvel stuff, like I started to think like Aaron is a lot like Kang. He knows how this is all going to end, and he feels like nothing he does is going to be able to allow him to deviate from this path, and ultimately he is the cause of the destruction of everything.
Yeah, and as
Does
much
that make
as
his brother the TVA?
Zeke
trying to stop him and
he
change
remains.
the path. Yeah, I did make those similar parallels, and it is interesting to finally get this revelation, truly confidently spread out for us, like easy to read. He knew what was going to happen the whole time. Like he can see all ends of time. And I wonder if that's part of why, A, I know manga readers have an issue with however this is going to end, but B, it almost felt like it fell flat to me, because I'm like, where's the twist in this? If Aaron knew this whole time, like what was the story about? Why were we going the direction that we were going if we couldn't change fate? If it was always fated to happen in this way? Like where is the twist coming in? And I'm sure it's going to pay off if there is that twist of the knife at the end, but it just kind of feels like, okay, Aaron knew, didn't want to tell anyone, was being an a-hole the whole time, and here we are, now we have to fight him again. Like I almost want a little bit more from that payoff of like, I know how this begins, I know how this ends. Like, is he holding another secret that we don't know about? Instead of like, that's why he needs them to stop him, as opposed to him stopping himself. Like, what's the end game here? Where is this going? And it just, it was an interesting addition to have that felt like just a reminder as opposed to a tease of something, or a question mark rather.
Especially because he's like tied to Amir now too. So like, how much of an influence does she have on his actions and thoughts now that he was like, "You can be yourself. I'll be your enforcer."
And
I forgot about that. Yeah.
That was part of what
rewatch
Rainer was saying, right? Is like, oh, he has this pressure inside of him that like he can't control. Maybe that's why he's just doing what he has to do, and we need to stop him.
All this because he needed a Tums.
Jeez. But yeah, it was an interesting story. It just, I don't know, with how long they've drawn out the storytelling of the first few seasons, it did feel very short-lived to only be a 1-hour special.
I really enjoyed the episode. I thought the cliffhanger was badass. I do agree that it sucks that we have to wait until the fall. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and I'm trying to stay non-biased because I think there is a lot of bias coming out of me right now with the whole we have to wait for more of this thing. Because, like, I wasn't unsatisfied with the episode as I was watching it. It was just after the fact when I was like, okay, do I get the next thing next week? To find out that I don't get the next thing next week, I became a complaining fan almost.
I think it's because I'm ready for it to be over. I was like, you know what? I like this system. It's fine. Like, I don't have to draw it out 2 different times this year and then wait 5-6 weeks each time. It's just like, okay, please, for God's sake, my fingers are crossed right now. The next time is just going to be the end of it.
Yeah, I can say, like, honestly, if we weren't covering this on the podcast, I would probably just hold off. Like, at this point, I'll just wait till it's all available, do a
That's
rewatch, and just watch it in its entirety.
But again, that's why I was mad at the communication, because I didn't know that was going to be the case until after the fact. And yeah, I don't know. I think it was also just so heavily emotional in awkward spots, or not awkward, but like you said, Jay Scotty, at the beginning of the episode, it was so gruesome and so graphic. Like, I know how bad the rumbling is. I have come to terms with this is going to kill a lot of people. To actually see that felt like you were just dragging my emotions through the mud. Like, I didn't have any of the, ooh, I get to see the gang come back together. Like, TJ's thing was, oh, I want to see the final 5 fight. I'm just like, I'm still sad about everything I just had to watch, man. I need to keep my spirits high somehow. So I think the pacing was a lot to handle. Like, I feel like I need some time to really, like, it's been a couple days and I feel like I'm still processing everything that I saw.
Sure. I look forward to the day where 3 or 4 years go by and I'm just like, you know what? I haven't seen Attack on Titan in a while and I can just watch it from beginning to end.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that.
I think that's the biggest thing, is like, this is going to go down in history as one of the most interesting and intricate stories ever told that you can watch in a very short period, because it's, air quotes, only 4 seasons long. Like, it is fairly short, all things considered. We've just waited 12 years to get it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think Aaron's Colossal Titan is taller than the Wall Titans?
Aaron's Colossal, or... Because he doesn't have the Colossal in him.
Armin, excuse me. That's been bothering me for a while, because the Colossal Titan can, like, peek over the wall, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't that mean that, like, the Wall Titans are, like, up to the Colossal Titan's, like, shoulder?
Yeah, I think that's a valid point.
I mean, I noticed there was some weird anatomy going on with the remainder of the Colossal Titans in general, that they had, like, the scrunched up feet, and some of them had exposed jaws, some of them didn't.
I noticed that too.
Facial reaction.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's just, okay, we made these big Titans that we're calling Colossal Titans, but then there's the Colossal Titan that is a force to be reckoned with, that is one of the original 9.
Because he's not the Colossal Titan if he's the same height as the rest of them, right?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about what we saw with, like, even, like, because arguably, like, in terms of screen time, we spent a lot more time with Bertolt as the Colossal Titan, and, like, thinking about Armin going up against him, and, like, the way the steam posed such a threat to him when that was happening, and, like, it took, like, the combined steam of, like, 5 or 6 of these Wall Titans in close proximity to, like, take Hanji out after a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
I think that lends credence to the fact that these are smaller versions of Armin's Colossal Titan.
That's something that the party brought up too. They were just like, wow, for 3 seasons, like, they struggled against a Colossal Titan, and now Hanji's just knocking these out by herself. And I was like, yeah, but these are mindless Titans, whereas like that was a person, like, actively covering himself up and strategically placing himself. So I understand how Hanji was able to get away with it. And she was smart in, like, trying to get certain ones so that they toppled over and this and that. So it's like, that didn't bother me at all. That tracked, if anything.
Yeah, I will say this show is also not great when it comes to perspective. If you look back at some of, like, the early seasons, there's times where, like, Aaron Titan towers over the buildings, or he's, like, a quarter of the way up the wall. But then the first time he fights the Colossal Titan, he's, like, the size of its shin. And if you like, math that out, that would make the Colossal Titan, like, 3 times the size of the wall, as opposed to, you know, the actual just can peek over the wall. So they do a lot of perspective playing just to make things seem more monumental, because it's also like the wall's only 100. I think I can't remember. It's, like, smaller than you would think, but if you actually math out, like, how many tall Aaron is and multiply it by the scenes of him against the wall, it looks humongous comparably. So there is a lot of things that they do very, very intentionally different, just to make you feel smaller watching these massive beings.
Wall Maria is definitively smaller than the wall at Castle Black in Game of Thrones. Just
Oh yeah, it's
had to throw that
so
in
much
there.
smaller.
That's a good perspective. No dragons here, though. I still love that the opener for the second season had all these, like, Titan animals. Just,
Oh, right.
I'm never going to get anything out of that.
Maybe that is the twist of the knife that I'm waiting for, is to finally get the whale titan.
He just comes out of the ocean.
Yeah, so for reference, the wall is 50 meters, which is 100
American?
Oh, you're asking for it in American, which is 164 feet. The Colossal Titan is just a bit bigger than that. So think about, that's a meter is about a yard. That's half a football field. Is like, a football field's not that big. Half a football field is the Colossal Titan.
Yeah, but if you take a football field and like stand it up vertically, like,
but like looking at the Colossal Titan, I expect it to be a whole football field, not half a football field. Like it's really not that.
I expect
big.
a Colossal Titan to like actually peek over a football stadium.
We've talked about Corridor on this channel, or on this podcast before, and I know
we have a channel.
Rin of the Corridor crew, he did a special on the, and I think we plugged it actually back when we were covering Attack on Titan. I think you brought it up, didn't you, Andrew?
The scale of Titans in Attack on Titan, yes.
Yeah, might be time to revisit that one.
It is, yeah, because so there you go. The walls and the Colossal Titan are around 50 and 60 meters, which is 160 and 190 feet. The wall in Game of Thrones is 700 feet.
There we go. Okay. Yes.
And like they animate them to be the same size. So there's a lot of weird perspective happening at any given time.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't know if I have much more to say on this one. How about you fellas?
Did we talk about the story much?
And at the end of the day, that's my weird problem with this episode, is like, we got a lot, but it's not tangible story. Like, I'm not going to sit here and talk about the civilians that were at the fort that we saw them for like half the episode. It was nice to see the emotional impact that it was having on the remaining Marleyans that were, still trying to escape, but like, I don't know if I care about that as much as I want to care about the original team and how great Hanji was. Yeah. And like, we talked plenty about her swan song, which I guess we didn't talk about how beautiful the animation was. That like classic Mappa doing Mappa things and just animating
that in theaters.
Heck out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. For my purposes, I do think the biggest story beats were Hanji's swan song, and then this conversation that our ragtag team got to have with Aaron in the coordinate or the paths. And we talked about those. So I think going forward, like the biggest story beat was going to be Levi versus Zeke round 3 versus the Beast Titan. And that was the cliffhanger there. So again, yeah, a lot happened. But again, it felt like a lot of setup for this final part that we're getting. So I do still come away thinking that like Hanji's moment was the most impactful part of this whole special.
Yes, and I think that's the biggest thing, is like, at least they didn't overshadow her truly going out in her own stylish way.
Flashy.
I resisted it.
Without getting a ride on the Cart Titan. She was not having that.
Oh my gosh. That was such a...
That was so sad.
You made it weird. Get out of here. You made it weird.
Look how you've truly met Hanji now. I think that moment reminded me, it was just kind of like, man, we haven't seen the side of her in a while.
Yeah.
No, and
they killed all the Titans on their island, so
I guess that's the last one thing to say, is she would have been very intrigued at the big cliffhanger we got on the boat of like, now Falco can kind of feel the memories of the Beast Titan, was it that he said?
Oh yeah, I almost completely forgot about that. Yeah, that seems like his story arc, like going forward, is what he thinks he can fly.
Yeah. Yes.
So we're gonna have a flying Jaw Titan,
or Jaw Titan, not Beast Titan. Thank you. Yeah, that was such a bizarre. Like, I can see him above the clouds. I think I can do that. And it's like, what? Why was he flying?
I really hope he just gets put into a cannon and just shot over. I mean,
Mario
Jaw Titan with
style.
wings would be interesting, but
I don't like a
would he
flying
just
Titan.
carry Annie there the whole time? Because we want to see all the Titans together, right?
Yeah, so you got to bring Annie, and then I guess Gabby's just gonna hang out. She's just gonna tag along for the ride, shoot some more people,
Like she does.
like she do.
Yeah.
It's another one I'll save for after. If you guys have ever seen Hellsinger Bridge, you know what I'm laughing at. But if not, I'll save it for after.
That one's lost on me. But
I feel like that as we're laughing hysterically about things not Attack on Titan, I think that's a good place for us to wrap it.
alrighty.
Okay.
So we said that we would plug all the places to reach out to us at the end of the episode here. So I'll start with the email. If you've got thoughts, you heard TJ Stafford at the top of the episode, but let us know what you're thinking about the continuation of Attack on Titan's final season. Please do so at animationdeliberationpodcast@gmail.com, as well as some other places.
Yes, and those other places are all of our social media accounts. You can follow us there, share our content there, or just keep up with any of the wonderful memes that we are keeping on all of our platforms. You can follow us at Animation Deliberation on Facebook and Instagram, and Animation Delib1 on Twitter.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for listening and for tuning in. That's TOONIN.
And as always, stay whelmed.
And Shinzo Sasageo. Muscle, muscle.
Thank you for listening to the Animation Deliberation Podcast, a proud member of the Stranded Panda Network. If you would like to contact us, you can email animationdeliberationpodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter @animationdelib1. For this and other great shows, you can visit strandedpanda.com or join the great community that is the Stranded Panda Chat Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/svchat. Tune in next time, and remember, stay whelmed.